there, I'm Kate and welcome to my kitchen. So today we're going to talk about tomatoes. We have beautiful tomatoes coming in from the garden, and sometimes we have too many tomatoes. So I'm going to give you some ideas on things to do with them that are very quick and easy and also very tasty. First thing we're going to try is Catalan tomato bread. It sounds very fancy, but actually it's just a very simple, very rustic, kind of a peasant sort of bread. Makes use of good ripe tomatoes and garlic and good strong bread. You can see I've got some toasted ciabatta here, which is the best because it has a very rough surface on it, and that's what we want for this. So the first thing that you do, I've cut garlic clove in half. I leave the skin on because it's easier to hold on to it, because garlic can be slippery and kind of sticky. So you take the garlic clove and you basically run it over the bread, getting as much of that garlic flavor on there as you can. Once we have our bread nice and garlicky, we're going to take a tomato, a nice ripe tomato, and we're going to cut it in half, just in half. And then we're going to take that tomato and we're going to do the same thing with it that we did with the garlic. We're going to rub it all over the bread. And you can see why, when I said it needed a kind of a rough surface, it helps that tomato stick to the bread. If you can do this with the bread nice and warm still right off the grill, it tastes even better. But you can see it's very simple, but it has that lovely flavor of garlic and tomato. We're going to put a little bit of olive oil on it, just a drizzle. And I happen to like salt with my tomatoes, so we're going to salt it as well. And there you go, Catalan tomato bread. Now that we've made our lovely rustic Catalan tomato bread, we're going to make another dish that uses the same ingredients but has a different outcome. This is called Bruschetta, and it is basically tomatoes, garlic, and basil. You can put it over a toast. We have grilled bread that we're going to try it on, and you can also use it as an uncooked pasta sauce. So either way, you get that fresh taste of tomatoes, the fresh taste of basil and garlic. With bruschetta, if you're going to be putting it over bread in particular, you need it to be a little bit drier than just a juicy tomato. So I'm going to take the tomato, and I'm going to cut it into quarters, and then I'm basically going to squeeze the seeds out into my compost bucket. You can also squeeze them into a soup or anything else, but that way some of the juiciness is gone. So we basically just have the tomato pulp left over. It makes for an easier serving. Okay, we have the pulp, and the seeds are gone. The seeds and the juice are gone. And then I'm going to take the tomato and I'm going to cut it into little cubes. They don't have to be exact. Again, this is a fairly rustic dish as well. So just small pieces so that they can easily stay on a piece of bread. Once you have your tomatoes chopped, the next thing I'm going to do is garlic. This is fresh garlic, and I'm going to smash it, which helps me peel it. It's really important that you use fresh garlic and not garlic powder in this, because it's a wonderful flavor of summer. Cut in very small pieces. Smashing it makes it easier to mince too. There's my minced garlic. One of the best parts of this bruschetta, gives it a wonderful flavor, is basil. So I've got just a little cluster of basil leaves. It doesn't take much, and I'm just going to slice these into very narrow ribbons. This is called chiffonade, if you want to be fancy about it. Slice them into little ribbons. And they go right in with your tomatoes and your garlic. The next step to the bruschetta is to give it a good splash of olive oil. Make sure that your olive oil is high quality and has a really fruity flavor. Then we're going to add some salt. Salt to taste. Some people like a little, some people like a lot. And then stir it. And it's a good idea to let this sit just on the counter for maybe an hour or so to let the flavors meld. So now that we have our bruschetta, we're going to put it on bread. And I like to use a slotted spoon because even though you took out a lot of the juice from the tomatoes, there's olive oil, it's still a little bit juicy. And so in order to keep it on the bread, it's a good idea to sort of strain it out a little bit. Just spread it on bread. Some people like to add a little bit of Parmesan cheese. You could spread the bread with goat cheese ahead of time. But I guarantee you will love this fresh taste of summer. Thank you. Italian cuisine has given us bruschetta. The other thing we're going to do is I have a bowl of noodles, and I've used soba noodles because I happen to like the whole grain. And they have a little bit more punch than regular spaghetti noodles, but you can use spaghetti, you can use penne, any kind of pasta at all. And again, we're going to put the bruschetta on the noodles. And toss the noodles with it. If you like, you can add Parmesan. Vegan Parmesan cheese is actually quite good. And you can see we have a lovely pasta dish that is absolutely the essence of summer. Okay, now we're going to try one of my favorites. This is Pico de Gallo, which is a Spanish salsa. It's made of fresh ingredients and it only has a few things in it. It has onion, tomatoes, peppers, and lime juice. You can use cilantro if you have it. I didn't have any fresh cilantro today, so we're going to leave that out, but I can add it when I'm ready to serve it. This is a wonderful dish that you can serve over the top of all kinds of vegetables. It's wonderful. I like eating it by itself on tortillas. It's a good dip. And you can use it in chili. You can use it on, especially on cooked beans. It's excellent on cooked beans. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to mince our onion. And I like to leave my Pico de Gallo a little bit chunky. Some people will put it through a food processor and make it a little bit more, almost pureed. But I happen to I like to taste the vegetables in it, so I leave mine a little bit more chunky. One of the nice things about this type of salsa or pico is that you can use just about any kind of peppers, any vegetables that you want in it. And I roasted, these are Anaheim peppers, and I basically cut them in half, took out the seeds and the membranes, which make them a little bit spicier, and then I put them in a 375-degree oven for about 15 minutes until the skins get charred. And I put them in just in a cup or a bowl, cover them up and let them steam for a little while, and it loosens the skin. Then you can peel the skin off, and then you have these lovely, rich roasted peppers, which give a depth to the salsa that the fresh peppers don't. So these are Anaheims, not very spicy. I'm going to add a fresh jalapeno to this salsa. When you're cutting up chili peppers, it's very important that you be very careful and not get it on your hands. Many times it's wise to actually use rubber gloves, especially for hotter pepper. This one is a pretty mild jalapeno, so it's not going to be, it shouldn't give me any problems, but I'm still very careful. You notice I'm touching it with a knife, but not with my hands, because I don't want to, if you get it on the oil on your hands, you can rub your eyes, it burns like crazy. It's not very pleasant. So I'm kind of awkwardly, but I'm cutting this up, trying not to touch much of it. And I like the seeds and the membranes are fine to go into it. You don't have to take those out, but you can if you want. It's certainly up to you. Next, I'm going to cut up this nice juicy heirloom tomato. And in this case, the juice and the seeds and everything are fine. We don't need to remove them. But we do want to cut it in small pieces, unless you're going to puree it in a food processor. And one little note, if you're going to use the food processor, put your onions and your peppers in first, add a little bit of olive oil, and put those through the processor first so that it gets them into pretty small pieces, then add your tomato. Because the food processor tends to make tomato juice out of the tomato, and it might be a little bit too thin. We have our ingredients in a bowl. I'm going to mix them up a little bit. See how beautiful this is? Just looks like summer. And then to set it off, we're going to use a lime, about half of a lime. You can use lemon juice, but lime juice actually gives it a much more piquant flavor. Really makes it taste good. I'm going to use a dash of olive oil, not much, just a little. And then I'm going to salt. Again, salt to taste, how you like it. And here we have this lovely Pico de gallo, fresh summer salsa. It can be used as a dip, can be used as a dressing on vegetables, can be used as a wonderful dollop in the middle of a bowl of beans. Okay, the last tomato dish that we're going to make is a soup called a Gazpacho. Again, this is a Spanish soup, and it makes use of the fresh things that are coming in from the garden. We're going to use cucumber, onion, a sweet red pepper, and tomatoes. With these vegetables, all we need to do is coarsely chop them because they are going to go into the food processor. I am going to peel the cucumber to start us off. It doesn't have to be completely peeled, but the skin gets a little bit tough sometimes, especially this time of summer. So we're going to peel it and we're going to very coarsely chop it. No need to remove the seeds. The food processor will make short work of that. I'm going to chop the onion. And the vegetables that you use in this, again, can vary. And you could use summer squash in it as well. And you can vary the amounts that you use. You can make it more tomatoey or more cucumbery, depending on how you like it. Chop the pepper the same way, just in coarse pieces. It doesn't have to be finely chopped. And then the tomatoes. Again, no need to seed them, no need to take the juice out. We're just going to coarsely chop them. We were looking for that juice because it's going to make a good liquid soup. We're also going to use garlic, of course, and I have not peeled this one, so I'm going to show you the easiest way to peel garlic is just to smash it. The peeling comes right off, and then you have just the heart of the garlic. And this we're going to mince fairly small because sometimes the food processor doesn't get all of the pieces. And if it's a piece of tomato, it's okay, but if a large hunk of garlic in your mouth is not always welcome. So we're going to mince this up pretty small and then put it in the food processor. We have all of our ingredients in the food processor, and I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil. And we're going to add lime juice when it's finished. The food processor has done its work, so now we have this lovely tomato-colored soup that we're going to pour in this bowl. And then to garnish, a squeeze of lime juice, another little drizzle of olive oil, and I like mine spicy, so you can either add Tabasco, or my favorite that has a little bit of sweetness to it is sriracha. Just a swirl of sriracha is all you need, and you have a lovely summertime delicious soup. You can see this soup is a little bit coarse. It has little pieces of tomato and cucumber in there. If you want it creamier, you can certainly put it in the blender, and that takes it down to smaller pieces. And another thing that you can do to make it a cream soup is to add coconut milk, which gives it another whole dimension of flavor. So however you like it, you can make it. One last way that you can take care of tomatoes and actually have them through the winter. It works really well with cherry tomatoes. It also works with full-size tomatoes. And the nice thing is you don't have to do anything except wash them and put them in. Take the stems off and put them in a Ziploc bag. zip it up and put them in your freezer. And then when you're ready to make salsa or soup or chili, you just take out the bag, thaw them, and they go right into your dish. If they're bigger tomatoes, as soon as you thaw them, the skins will peel right off. Cherry tomatoes, it's usually not necessary. But it's a nice way to save all that harvest, that bumper harvest that's coming in if you don't have a chance to get to it and use it. Works really well. You don't have to blanch them or anything, just freeze them and then pull them out. Now they'll be soft. They will not keep their firmness once they're out of the freezer, but you're going to use them in chili or sauce or salsa anyway, so works very well.